The real war will never get in the books.
We've doubled the amount of debt we've had in the last 10 years. This is one of those things where, like, the news should be screaming about this every day, but they don't. That the sheer amount of debt we have is just never going to get paid back. But we spend more paying off the interest, which is 5% of the debt, than we do the military now. How are we going to pay off the rest of the debt? So debt's one. Immigration is another, where we had like 40 million illegal immigrants before. Biden's added around another 10 million. We can't push immigration much further. Economic issues are another one, where Americans have kept getting poorer, where Americans built up a lot of savings over COVID, and now something like 2/3 of Americans, they don't have a $1,000 emergency cost. And so Americans have gradually gotten poorer and poorer as a demographic. And so you're hitting desperation levels. And so just on a financial basis, most Americans can't make it another 5 years. And so when you add up all these things, debt, financial issues, psychological issues, immigration, neither side is both sides have not respected the last two elections. So there's no chance the right and the left respects this coming election.
It's true that many Americans are feeling the weight of economic pressures, making the upcoming election feel especially crucial. Rising costs of living, housing affordability, and financial insecurity are real challenges for many people. These concerns often bring to the forefront discussions about economic policies, social safety nets, and other measures that might alleviate the struggles faced by those on the brink of homelessness. Although many may feel hopeful that the things will change with the election, the reality is that very little things change, and the issues continue to persist. Both sides often blame each other for the worsening conditions, leaving people feeling stuck in a cycle of unfulfilled promises and ongoing struggles. The desperation is likely to continue and even worsen, as there is only so much debt a system can handle before it becomes meaningless and it is no longer honored.
Where both the conservatives and the left have said that they will not basically honor the results of this election, where, I mean, that was Trump's thing from last election. He's cast doubt on it this election. And for the left, there was a senator who said that if the Trump wins this election, that they'll try to use the 14th Amendment to get the results thrown out. And so you have all these triggers that can't really get moved much further. And what happens when you get in a very hard situation where there aren't easy answers is you just say, screw it, we're going to have a war. And so you end up with this place where the leaders involved have an incentive to defect, because past a certain range, if you're a conservative politician and the left asks for another budget concession, it's your active incentive for you to just start a war, because you have a higher chance of getting reelected doing so than you do if you cooperate. And so all these wars start when one side asks concession from the other side that they're not willing to do.
The left and the right are increasingly finding less common ground, and the threat of government shutdowns is becoming more frequent. What used to be a rare occurrence is now almost routine. For instance, on August 24th, 2024, there was an article entitled "Proof of Citizenship Voting Bill Push Could Threaten Government Shutdown." It seems that we're reaching a point where shutdowns are no longer just a threat, but a reality we face regularly. If this trend continues, shutdowns may no longer be seen as viable solutions, and a deeper division might become the only option.
That was the French Revolution, the English Civil War were caused by budget crises, the American Civil War by an election dispute, the fall of the Roman Republic was the assassination of a popular political candidate. These are all examples. And so of all of those, I think the most important one is budget issues, where we're getting to the point where the average American is economically desperate enough that if you're in debt and you're not going to get laid and all that stuff, you're going to roll the dice, because if you roll the dice, even if there's a 50% chance of dying, you know you're screwed in this timeline, so might as well roll the dice.
The Federal Reserve, the government, by printing money, caused all types of distortions in the market, and it leaked into home prices, into food prices, and we're at a point of no return. There is no way we can pay back over $35 trillion worth of debt, not to mention that this compounding monthly. We're spending more money on the interest payments than we are on the U.S. military. So this has snowballed to a point of no return, and there's not many solutions. One solution would be to reset the currency entirely and default on debt.
The state of Texas basically tried to block its southern border with Mexico. And the reasoning for it, because on a constitutional basis, the federal government are the people who maintain external borders, and states aren't allowed to. But the Texans said, because the government's not doing that, we get to step in. And so the thing that really shocked me there is that within a day, 25 states said they militarily supported Texas. 25 states said they supported Texas over the federal government. 10 states said they militarily supported Texas. That's a huge deal. Within a single day, 10 states said they'd use their militaries to fight the U.S. government. And National Guards aren't a joke. The Texas National Guard would be the fifth. It would be in the top 5 most powerful militaries in the world. It has air assets. It has tanks. It has that stuff. And
Texas decided to protect its border, and they rolled out razor wire, and they set up troops along the Mexican-Texas border. Now, what ended up happening is the federal government came and tried snipping down the razor wire, and this caused a huge issue. Over 27 states publicly stood with Texas with their right to protect their borders, as well as 10 of those states said that they would help Texas militarily with fighting the federal government. So Texas versus the federal government. And this whole incident seemed to be swept under the rug. I remember briefly hearing about this, but I never really understood the importance until I listened to this interview.
Hundreds. In the year 1645, every major country on Earth was fighting both an internal civil war and an external war at the same time. You have a couple that had it before or after. In the year 1348, the entire world was having a civil war and the Black Death. And then you can go back even further, where the Chinese Empire, the Han Dynasty, fell at the same time as the Roman Empire, around 200 AD. Around 900 AD, the Abbasid Caliphate in the Middle East, the Frankish Empire, and the Tang Dynasty in China all fell at the same times. So these cycles are linked historically, and the more interconnected the world is, the more the cycles are linked. And so what we're seeing now is roughly approximate social issues around the world. And I've seen this I lived as a digital nomad for a few years. So in France, there were the Yellow Vest riots were happening. So I'd see explosions in the streets. In Peru, the Communist Party had just been elected there. In Canada, they have their issues. America has issues. China, right after I went there, it became authoritarian. And they shut down people from the West. India is having its nationalism. Russia is having a war with Ukraine. The European Union is having its crisis. Brazil's getting really ugly. And so this is a normal historic thing where different areas of the world often experience their own crises at the same time as other crises.
Nature is indeed cyclical, and while I hold high hopes for great things in the future, history shows that the norm for human behavior can often be brutal. Throughout time, we have seen cycles of peace and conflict, cooperation and division. Despite our capacity for kindness and progress, humanity also has a tendency to revert to aggression and discord. It's a reminder that while we strive for a better world, we must remain aware of these underlying tendencies and work actively to break the cycle.
Is that when the currency becomes a reflection of the government, stuff goes to political buddies. And so that's what's going on in our society, where BlackRock has the ESG score, which is based around various leftist social issues. And so the reason that there's all this leftist culture today, and the reason why keep in mind for a company like Disney, some minuscule amount of their market cares about leftist issues. Because keep in mind, they make most of their money outside America. And in America, woke people are 10% of the population. In Indonesia and China, it's none. And so the reason they're doing that is because the economy is mostly artificial. And thus, you get good things in an artificial economy by playing to the people who are giving you the artificial money. And it's also why there was this advertising scheme where it's 90% of advertisers, and it's constructed around not working with conservatives. Because, and that's insane when you hear it, because when the money is artificial, the economy becomes about pandering to the people making the fake money. But that's not sustainable in any way, shape, or form.
Nature is indeed a balancing act. When we veer too far in one direction, it often finds a way to bring us back into equilibrium. Similarly, when our financial systems become too centralized or controlled, the emergence of decentralized money offers a natural counterbalance. It's a testament to the idea that even in the realm of economics and governance, nature's tendency to seek balance can lead to new solutions and pathways for progress.
Keep in mind, average IQ, half the population's beneath that. And
truth is powerful and it prevails. Thanks, everyone. I hope you enjoyed the show. Please take a moment to like and subscribe. If you enjoy content like this, please consider joining my Patreon or my ghost site, dmjr.ghost.io.